right, my friends, you're back. Wow. Let me know you can hear me. We hear you. Yay, MJ. I saw you last week, MJ. I was on Greg Oliar's place. I didn't have a chance to comment on you now. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, LG. Hey, Heroes here. Hey, folks, welcome back. Welcome back to Cliff's Edge, our favorite live stream. Right? Your favorite live stream. Everybody's saying it's the best. We are coming here from a slightly rainy Cincinnati, the Queen City, the Radio City, baby. I'm even wearing pants. Not that I'm usually going commando here, but I actually have long pants on and not shorts. And that tells me the summer's ending, and there's something a little bit sad about that. But are we really live, Mr. Android? Oh, we're live. What would you like me to say? How long has it been so far? I think we're far enough along. Fuck shit. Goddamn. There you go. We're live. Great lineup we got today. David Schuster, per usual, will make me smarter. And we've got Frederick Pogue, if you're not familiar with, a pontificator, a commentator, a producer in the past for numerous folks in entertainment, and really just a good dude. He's got like awesome huge beard that looks like a MAGA beard, but like has cool politics. So it's a very good thing. I'm excited to have Fred on. It'll be fun. He's been writing some really smart Substacks, and I want to talk to him all about it. We're going to talk about what are we going to talk about? Well, Gavin Newsom's amazing job trolling Republicans, and that there are certain people here, me, who've been screaming about this for 20 years now. Kamala, for a while, did an amazing job during the campaign, and because she didn't win, was never given enough credit for the mockery and other stuff that they did very effectively. Even I have my disagreements with how they spent campaign money and some other things, but with the time she was given, she ran a great campaign. People stopped saying stupid shit about her. Overall, though, the mockery was great. We've got our Swalwells, we've got our Dan Goldmans, we've got our Jasmine Crockett's and people that take it to them. But Gavin has taken it to a whole nother level and finally embraced the psychological warfare that politics is, of the fact that you always should be mocking, aggressively messaging against, going after, hitting hard, just putting your opponent in a corner that they have to fight their way out of. But when it's a guy that's as psychologically weak as this one, it's a guy who knee pads for Putin, right? Guy this utterly pathetic, empty, soulless, big hole, in the middle of his body that he can only fill with the KFC special. That's somebody you need to make fun of. So we'll have Schuster joining us probably in about 5 minutes. And first, I wanted to get to the most controversial part of the show. This is okay. So please don't get angry at me, because I'm going to piss a lot of you off with this opinion, but it has to be shared. And it's in response to Donald Trump from what he said. So I just, just forgive me. Slavery was bad. Yeah. Slavery was actually really fucking bad. And it's pretty self-evident it was bad. It's like one of those things like, I don't know, having an asteroid hit the earth or giving birth to Eric Trump. I joke, and I shouldn't even when it comes to this stuff. Slavery was awful. It's like the Armenian genocide was awful. It's like how the Holocaust was awful. It's like how we could go on, and I could list forever, because sadly many horrific things have happened in history. But Donald Trump doesn't seem to get it. You see, he's pissed at the Smithsonian because they put back up the exhibit that actually mentioned his 2 impeachments, not quite as many as the 3 marriages and 5 bankruptcies, but still impressive work. And so he wants to go after them. So he responded that all they do is talk about bad stuff. They don't talk about any of the beautiful stuff I do. Never give me credit. They only talk about the bad stuff, like slavery. And they make it seem like slavery was really bad. That was actually the quote. they make slavery seem, oh, no, no, no. They only cover the bad part about slavery. That's it. They only cover the bad part about slavery. The good parts. I mean, are we back to like the Dunning School for any of you historians out there? Those were some professors from the early 20th century, and they were the sort of ones that helped inspire things like, you know, Gone with the Wind and Birth of a Nation, and they wrote books about the great lost Southern cause and how black slaves, got a great deal. I mean, hell, they got fed and taken care of while they were doing the work of fat, lazy future MAGA men. So let's dispense first with the fact that the right wing talking point, yeah, there were actually 3,775, they've counted, Black Americans in the South, free men who owned slaves. Fuck you guys too. That doesn't change the whole thrust of the whole thing. The vast majority, 1/4 of the white population, not the vast majority, but the vast majority of people who owned slaves, obviously, 1/4 of the white population did. Most didn't own more than 10. It was run by a couple billionaire type oligarchs. Gee, any of that sound familiar? Most of these assholes went and fought in the war between the states, the war of northern aggression. Why these Yankees came on down here, made us not keep people in bondage like we should. Right. Here's the thing. You were dumb. Used to call it what was it? Waving the bloody flag or bloody towel, was it? When the wealthy ones would essentially convince the dumb white poor people that could never afford a slave that this was their cause too. None of that sounds familiar to today, does it? They pioneered this shit a long time ago. But let's go with some numbers, right? We started having slavery on a pretty large scale in 1790 in the United States. We banned, I think it was 1807, the international slave trade. So now it was just a domestic thing. And of course, then horrible here. I couldn't even find numbers. I don't know. You guys may know if they exist on murdered slaves and raped slaves. But I couldn't even find actual numbers on that. Because my guess is nobody kept those. What I could find very easily is that by 1860, we were at 4 million slaves in this country before the Civil War, because the growth, a lot of it initially tobacco and sugarcane, but cotton was growing, and you had lots of fat, lazy white guys. And it should remind you of everything that fat, lazy white guys who support MAGA do today. I don't want to work. I'll have a slave. I'm going to claim that all these black men love white women. I'm going to go in and sexually assault a slave. I'm going to treat all these people terribly, but I'm the one who's the victim. I'm the one who's been trodden upon. It was besides, I'd say up there with obviously our genocide against Native Americans, the most despicable thing we've ever done in this country by far. And to study and to really look at the generations and generations of destruction that we wrought, families split apart, people beaten, mauled, told, even just constantly told they were less than everybody else. It also had other features from today. A bought and paid for bunch of right-wing cranks on the Supreme Court who came to the Dred Scott decision in 1857. Sure, you escape to the North, but you're still property of the South. Come on back down and be a slave again. It echoes our times, sadly, or our times echo it, because it reminds you of where we are, and that people at that time were so ignorant too. And right now we have that same ignoramus as a president as we had in Buchanan back then, and later on in Andrew Johnson, who undid a lot of what we were able to do after the Civil War, or undermined a lot of what we were able to do. The only good time for Reconstruction was during Grant, who actually is a distant relative of my family, other side, not mine, by marriage. So we're still claiming Grant, because Grant finally has been reevaluated for the awesome abolitionist like dude that he was. They smeared him, that early Dunning School of historians, for that very reason. As a drunk and this and that, because, and frankly, if you like to have a couple good drinks, then you could be my pal too. But they did that because they had to, anybody that actually had done the right thing had to be destroyed. Again, slavery was bad. Really, it was bad. You don't have to debate it. You don't have to discuss it. There's certain things that really don't have both sides, corporate media. They just don't. Here, let's see this. Did that work? Of course it didn't work, because it's me and this is technology. Let's try one more time. Oh, I know what I'm doing wrong. Okay, hold on one second. So we do have, and I'll do this quickly. I see David's in there. Fred's in there. I can't keep everybody just waiting. I mean, just for my own little rants against slavery. Not an important topic at all. Not important if the president would say that Smithsonian may want to reevaluate their take on it. I mean, come on, man. Clothes, companionship. Who didn't like working out in the fields in 112-degree weather when you couldn't keep anything of what you had created? Hey, look at that. There we go. 1860, 4 million slaves in the South, a quarter of white families. I told you some of this. 3,000 families owned 100 slaves or more. Typical slaveholder, 100-acre farm. We talked about some of this stuff, okay? Let's see if I can get one of the other ones that would show, because there was one I had on the treatment of slaves. And I know that you don't necessarily need to show it to you, because I bet you can just sort of, I don't know, read any number of books, or go see Glory, or any number of things that you can do to realize, yes, this was like a real institution and a really bad thing. And yes, Donald Trump, per usual, is letting that piss cotton candy wig on his head do the talking. But in his defense, it's dripped into his cerebral cortex. So it's just a lot of fucking mush around there. He can't really help it because he doesn't know what the hell's going on. It's called dementia. Hey, Jake Tapper, any more books in you? Could you do it? Or would it, I guess access you don't get access from it. So you wouldn't want to do it, would you? Dickhead. All right, hold on. Let's just find this one. And if I don't, folks, I'm going to give up. Yeah, I found it. And it's not letting me put it in here. So you know what? We'll do what we'll do. I bet that David Schuster, who we're now adding, and Fred Pogue, who we're now adding, will have smart things to say about this.
That's right. First of all, Fred, David here, honored to be on with you. I love the videos and stuff you've been doing, and welcome.
Thank you, man. I was about to say the same thing for you two gents.
Right.
I was like, but what I love the way we're set up now is we feel if you look at our names, it's like we're a personal injury law firm for the Trumpism. It's like we're Schechter, Schuster, and Pogue.
Yeah, that actually is solid.
Maybe we should. That the Smithsonian, I wish they, legally could do this. Should bring a defamation suit against Donald Trump, because to pick up Cliff on what you were talking about, Donald Trump saying, the Smithsonian talks about how bad slavery was. I mean, there are two issues here. First of all, as you noted, yes, slavery was bad, but secondly, anybody who's ever been to the Smithsonian, the American Museum of Smithsonian Museum of American History, knows that as their goal is they present the complex history of the United States. It's not all doom and gloom and terrible things like slavery. I mean, they've got things like, Edison and the invention of electricity and the printing presses. I mean, it shows the progress as well. And so I think that, Donald Trump is showing that not only is he a racist, but also he's somebody who actually has never set foot and a Smithsonian. And I wish his aides or somebody would say, hey, let's put you in a golf cart or a mobile wheelchair, whatever it is you need. We're going to show you what's actually in the Smithsonian, because you're talking about it like an ignoramus.
Let's throw you in the back of a wheelbarrow, and maybe haul your ass on over there. I mean, I will say quickly, I think he went to slavery because he's so stupid. And again, this is not a new thing, but he couldn't come up with anything else. And what's really bothering him are the two impeachments that they put in for after they'd been taken down. They put the information back up about them. So he needed to complain about something. And that little sort of, hamster that's been on vacation for the last, 20 years, it's not running the wheel in that fucking brain of his anymore. He couldn't think of anything else. So he thought that was the first thing he came to him. Like, they only showed the bad side of slavery was the best he could come up with.
Hey, Fred, are you surprised? Fred, are you surprised by Trump anymore, or are you just sort of like, oh my God, there's nothing that surprises me now?
You know what? Like, I was on a live with Dean Blundell today, great guy, writer from Canada, and I keep thinking like, there's nothing that can surprise me at this point. And he said it himself, and I couldn't believe this. Is that, well, why do you want to end the war in Ukraine? Well, Trump reportedly said, well, I want to get into heaven. And Carolyn Levitt backed it up. And I said, come on, man. He didn't say that. Did he really say that? He wants to get into heaven? And Dean said, oh, yeah. And
There's gonna be
I
way
think,
too much of that gaudy gold up there if he does get in. Like he's gonna ruin the fucking place.
I think what we would need, and we would need more than like a wheelchair. I think, you would need with Trump if he were in the Smithsonian is a very patient pre-K teacher that would talk to him on his intellectual level, to where it would be just, it's like, okay, we're experiencing some big feelings right now, Donald. You need to use your words and stop hitting people. Okay, we don't hit. No, no. We don't ban history, Donald. That's not the answer. We try to understand history. Okay.
Well, I wonder, I mean, with Donald Trump's comments about getting into heaven, and I'll tee it up for both of you guys, and Cliff, start with
Yeah.
you. I mean, this could be a sign. Is it possible that Donald Trump knows he's dying? And so he's thinking about his own mortality now and what may happen in the afterlife, if there is an afterlife, and he's trying to sort of figure it out. And because I think a lot of people, when they get to that stage of life, the twilight years, they start having this sort of conversations openly about what's next, particularly if they've got some sort of dreaded disease, or they're becoming more incapacitated. And so I wonder if Donald Trump is essentially telling us all maybe the end is near.
Right. Well, I think, he knows he's not lucky and God hasn't ordained him the next Moses like Mike Johnson. So you start off with that. But in all seriousness, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by that at all, because of the fact that, you've done these great videos, David, we've included here. Like there's a lot wrong with him, right? He suddenly has like part of his hand mushed in and look like I don't know what that was even called. I don't even know how to describe it. And there are times where he's not walking right. We know he had the beginnings of congestive or heart failure when Ronnie Jackson was saying he was going to live to the age of Methuselah, because like objective doctors looked at those charts and said, yeah, dude's getting heart disease. You add all that up. I mean, he's got the diet of an 8-year-old. He won't even walk stairs. They wind him. He probably takes a golf cart up the damn stairs. You're talking about golf carts. I mean, I can joke, but in all seriousness, he rage tweets all the time. He doesn't exercise. He eats garbage. When he has basically, he's morbidly obese. Like I think he's got every sort of risk factor you can have. So yeah, I mean, maybe doctors behind the scenes have actually uttered some truths to him, and maybe he's looked at his own sort of failing, whatever that Galapagos of a body of his, and sort of seen that, it's like, why is my hand caving in? Why do my legs have that crap all over them? Why do I have enormous cankles? And so I could see it, sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think the thing here is what's surprising. It shouldn't be surprising. I think where he's said, because he's stopped 7 wars now. Was his last one? It was 6 over the weekend, and now it's 7. I think that he's going for the ultimate.
That's a good weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going for the ultimate con, guys. I think he's trying to bullshit God to get into heaven. I think he's just, he's trying to. Well, I stopped all these wars. I had the best economy in the world. It's magnificent. I was anointed the on Earth, so I totally should get in, guys.
Maybe that's why he wants a Nobel Peace Prize so badly, because he knows he's got to make the case to God, and that maybe will make it a little easier to con God on that. But yeah, I got no doubt. I mean,
oh yeah,
he'll probably talk in his own sort of feeble, flaccid brain to God and or what he thinks is his God, and try to convince whoever it is to let him in wherever, because that's all he's ever done his whole life, right?
Yeah.
But he'll probably just be talking to a chair sitting in the corner or something. We're getting into that. We're getting into that phase, or he'll just keep calling God Russia. Hi, Russia. Can I come to you, Russia? Meet you, Russia. So I mean, yeah, and I don't care. Like anybody can say I'm being mean. I am. I loathe him. He's evil. He's hurt. And actually, he's killed lots of people
yes.
by not reacting to COVID, according to 3 different studies, Lancet study, others, up to 400-something thousand people that didn't need to die. So honestly, fuck him. I got no sympathy. I will mock every minute he's on this earth. If that makes me a bad person, then so be it.
Well, and to touch on it, it's interesting because you brought up that you are related to Ulysses S. Grant.
Very distant. It's a fun thing to say, but by marriage to the family and very distant. but it still feels kind of cool because I love Grant.
So my family history is kind of an interesting one because on my father's side, who the Pogues, who I'm named like my namesake, they came over in South Carolina before America was a thing. So like 20 years before America was founded. They moved from throughout the South, Georgia, all the way to Mississippi. They married into another prominent family, the Harmons. They all fought for the Confederacy, and we had family members that were in the KKK in Mississippi.
Nice.
And one of the things that my great grandmother used to keep that I don't know what's happened to it, was a mint dish that Jefferson Davis ate mints out of, right? So that was
like keeping like a Hitler artifact.
Right, exactly. So, and then on my mother's side, the Summers family.
Surprised Harlan Crow didn't get a hold of that. Sorry,
right? He might. But on my mother's side, they're German. They came over. We had the immigration papers. It was in 1876 through Chicago. German Catholics eventually ended up settling in Colorado. They were run out of Colorado in like 1916, somewhere around there, because the Klan pretty much ran Colorado politics at that time. A lot of people don't know that. And, they got ousted as like the Klan became less popular and going into the 20s and 30s. But they moved back to Southern Illinois and then came back to get their property somewhere around the Great Depression. And then, my grandmother was from here and my mother as well. So you have on one side, my father's side of the family, who has KKK ties, not my father, not his immediate, like his siblings, but KKK ties to the Confederacy. We're slave owners. There are black folks in Memphis that have the Pogue last name. I have a very
that sucks.
last name, and they bear my last name because of that. And so discounting this legacy of America it's untrue and it's dangerous, right? It doesn't let us know, it's an attempt to control the present by whitewashing the past. That's what it is. No,
I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, again, right? If you don't know history, you're doomed to repeat it, kind of thing. Well, they don't want us to know history because they want us to be doomed to repeat it.
And our audience wants to know who we all are. And Fred, for I don't know if you go by Fred or Frederick, but for people who don't know who you are,
let's put this up here. Jim, one of our extraordinary moderators here, has answered the question.
That's it. I am. Yes, I've done a few things. I'm currently now on Substack, Missives from a Middle-Aged Man. I started that as sort of just an outlet after Kamala lost. And I just started writing things. And then I think my first live was after Schumer caved on the CR. And I just had to get it out. And so I think I ranted for like an hour. And then I just started doing lives with folks. And then recently, I did a 24-hour live where we broke it up into chunks, which was honestly inspired by Cliff and him doing 12 hours. And we
decided to be even crazier. And
we broke it up. There's 3 of us. There's one of you. I think I did a total of 12, but not all in a row, right? I broke it up into different chunks. And we started a thing called Banner and Backbone, which is a re-engagement of civics. And it's by 2 veterans and another gentleman, Lawrence Winterman, Nick Paro. And that's what we're trying to do, is we're bringing in folks that are just trying to re-engage with civics, trying to talk about civil rights in this era. Like, what does that mean for privacy when it comes to digital concerns and AI and things, and conversations we frankly haven't had because we're too busy talking about this dumb stuff.
No, right. I mean, it's so important. Like there's all these other huge issues.
Yes.
And like this is just another one of those things that we don't talk about with Trump, whereas he's such a disaster on every level of just anything he says, he does, just a fully just moral hole,
Yes.
but he also, because we're doing that, as you're right, like, there are people flying forward with AI, and we're not asking questions. And like the guys who run the doomsday clock, I've moved it forward a little bit because they've said, like Terminator, like shit is like a real scenario. Like, is it likely? No. Is it possible that there could be self-realization? They could be like, hey, what do we just see the Russians or the Americans as the enemy? Let's get rid of all these pesky humans. Yeah, it could happen. So it's good to know that we're following all of the smart warnings out there and moving forward. And that's the thing is like, we're dealing with people that are bought off and completely corrupt. We've got the tech bro mafia who is all behind this because they just want to make money off of it, and they also want to be able to basically make most people, they want to make most of us their freaking experiments. That's all we are to Peter Thiel, a way that he can figure out how to live longer. He wants to be part. He wants to be a part cybernetic organism, quite seriously, and live forever. And so they're all in behind AI because they don't give a crap. They don't believe in democracy. They've said it. He said it. But for the rest of us, AI is one of those things that we should be talking about, real safeguards, and we're not, because all we can talk about is, the smelly orange freaking goofball in the middle of the room who keeps screwing everything up. Did people before, when they came in, they asked who we were? They didn't know who you were, David?
Sometimes I think people they're new to us and they're like, who?
I don't. But again, you're David Schuster.
Right.
David Schuster, Emmy Award-winning former host at MSNBC.
That's for everybody who's like 55 and over.
So that's a lot of our crowd.
You know me through the TV stuff, and then people who are younger than 30 maybe know me through the YouTube stuff, and a lot of people just. But anyway, Fred, you mentioned veterans,
yes.
And I think on your description, you describe yourself as an RPG geek, a rocket-propelled grenade geek. Tell us that connection.
So
it doesn't mean like you walk around with one everywhere, does it?
I wish it was cool as like rocket propelled grenade. It's actually role playing game. So I'm I'm not nearly. I mean, the funny thing though was
that's hilarious. That's awesome, David.
In the Marine Corps, I did train on a rocket propelled grenade called the M240 Small, and I did play around with. I was a Marine reservist, and I played around with C4. So I blew up what would be considered hardened positions. And, like for a warfare that was basically in a bygone era where I was trained in on conventional, like the lines where we're going against the Russians and all that. Cause I went in 95 and we're like 3 iterations away from that. Cause if you look at Ukraine now, where it's like, what do you need tanks for anymore? You got drones. Like tanks are worthless now. So the Ukrainians are like, yeah, we're winning this war with drones and stuff you can get at a hobby shop. It's like, okay, there you go.
Well, I mean, given your background, and this sort of leads me to my question about the perspective that veterans have of so much of what's going on. And I was just working on a video a short time ago about some of the ICE agents who I think are law enforcement wannabes, maybe. It used to be that ICE agents, had a pretty heavy contingent of former military, same thing with police and whatnot, but no longer. As a veteran, what do you make of, your service in perspective now? All the things that you did in terms of joining the military, serving the greater good of the country, and sort of what has happened to that noble cause given what Donald Trump has done to the military through ICE, to minorities, et cetera, et cetera.
Dude, that's David, man. That's an awesome question. It's funny because the first Substack I ever wrote was a play on Reagan's campaign, "Mourning in America," but I spelled it, like you're in mourning, you're grieving, and
we have been ever since, pretty much.
Yeah, and I wrote in there as a veteran. It was the first time I'd ever felt betrayed by my fellow Americans, that my service didn't matter.
You're saying the first time we elected Trump, or the second?
No, the second time, because the first time you could chalk that up to like, all right, you got okey doked, it was a mistake, you got took, it happens. It's like, I don't know how you got took, but it happens. It's okay. Right. The second time with everything, and again, it's not like in the campaign, like in the first time, he hit it. He said everything he was going to do. The only thing he kind of distanced himself was when people said, "What about Project 2025?" And he said, "Oh, I don't know anything about that." Even though, my vice president wrote the forward for it, and everybody in my previous administration contributed to it. But as far as immigration and ICE, he talked about it. The tariffs
and the
he
January
talked about
6th
it.
stuff. I mean, like he got up with them when they sang that, whatever was it, a version of the national anthem or whatever despicable display where they had a song for all these criminals now
Right.
among those working for ICE. I mean, yeah, he was pretty clear. This is why for me to forgive anyone who I know who chose to vote for him. And there aren't very many, but I have a real hard time with it. Because
I do too. I struggle with it because he told us what he was in that debate with Kamala Harris. It was plain as day, and I know I've seen other Substackers, and I know it's the proliferance of right wing media and the propaganda.
It's a huge part of it, definitely.
That is, but the thing that I keep getting stuck on, and this is a very visceral reaction for me, is at what point do you take personal responsibility for being a citizen of this country and take your obligation to vote and uphold that obligation seriously? I don't know how you get more of an out and out horrible person. He didn't hide it.
Right.
There was no attempt to hide it.
It's not just, it's like the policies, right? But on top of the policies, you just try to find. I remember there was sort of like a joke on Seinfeld about how like George Costanza was like every negative quality that a man could have, right? Like they did that on purpose. It was supposed to be, and that was a little facetious or whatever. But honestly, name like 7 deadly sins. I mean, you come forward with any list you want, and Donald Trump literally is can I say that there's never been anybody as immoral and horrific? There have been in history, whatever. But honestly, there is no person worse than him. There are people that have gotten opportunities to do worse things, at least so far. Let's hope it stays that way. But the point is like there's no soul, there's no morality, there's no compassion, there's no belief in any kind of equality or there's nothing. There's only the narcissism and only these sort of every day waking up and saying how can I get the most people to cheer my name and say how great I am today.
And unlike the first term, there are no people around him that serve as safeguards. I mean, you had some fairly, people I might have disagreed with, but were sort of willing to have guardrails around Donald Trump in his first term. Now, I mean, a guy like Pete Hegseth, who pitched war plans on signal. I mean, he would have been bounced out of the military if he was not the Secretary of Defense in any other situation, right?
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
I just want to say quickly, just before, because I've forgotten to mention before, and I think probably some of our audience has seen this, but I mean, we haven't even talked about this media, by the way, obsessed nonstop in 2016 with Hillary's emails. Every one of you guys suck, by the way, who covered that story the way you did. I just thought I would say that again. You fucking suck, because we're living this world, in this reality because of you and James Comey. But these assholes printed out the Alaska schedule at a hotel 4 miles away, highly classified, where they were meeting, him and Putin and other people, when they were meeting, all sorts of protocols. And some dickhead, I'm sorry, I'm just inspired, left it on the printer at the hotel.
Yep.
And I don't even know if everybody knows that, because it's like barely cracked the media, because of everything else. When we had a whole upper fold of the New York Times with Hillary's emails on it. I mean, it's just, there's just nothing positive about these people. There's nothing good. There's nothing, like they're just all awful. As David said, there at least were some people who I'm like, okay, I think their politics kind of suck. I'm not a huge fan of, Mad Dog Mattis, or I'm not a huge fan of what was his name at National Security? I can't think of his name right now.
Jim Mattis, Mad Dog. Yeah.
No, he was defense secretary. There was another one.
You're not thinking, not Esper. Esper wasn't Esper.
Not Esper, although it turned out in the end, he even condemned Trump. But the other dude who'd been around for a while, I feel like it's an Irish name, not McDougal or Rick.
Is it? Are you thinking of Mike McMullen? Did he do it? No.
I look at, for example, Rex Tillerson, State Department, who's Secretary of State.
Yep.
I mean, okay. He's a little bit of a clown, but that's, but there was
an oil guy, not the best sort of, but at the same time, like he's the one who called Trump a moron and clearly wasn't just a Trump stooge.
Right.
It's like they were bad people, but they weren't like full on MAGA cult level bad. They weren't like, Donnie, tell us if you stepped in dog poo. Should we lick it off your shoes for you? Like they weren't at that level, of like, they weren't at the, hi, my puppy isn't hunting well enough. I think I'll go shoot it in the face level. Like that's who these people are. They're literally gathered from among the worst dregs of society.
And what's worse, here, and I want to touch on a point you made, Cliff, which was there's nothing good about them. Like I got politically switched on. I had hurt my knees in a training accident in the Marine Reserves about 2000, so I was out. Iraq War happens in 2003. I knew guys that were in my unit that were going to get activated. They were going to go over. I was like, okay, I'm not in now. I have to do everything I can to try to push back against this lie of ultimately what led us into Iraq. At least with George W. Bush, and I hated George W. Bush when he was in office.
Oh, I thought that was the worst we could ever have.
I did too. But you look at his presidency, it's like he did good things in Africa. He was, Jon Stewart did a piece about it on the Daily Show where he was shocked because he went to Africa. He'd done all this work for HIV prevention.
He actually saved, again,
a lot of people
lives in Iraq, and I'm going to do that calculation, but saved potentially hundreds of thousands, if not millions of lives in Africa, with his AIDS initiative. And now they come in, of course, and they crush USAID. As he fully put all of his political capital behind and supported actually what would have been terrific immigration reform.
Right.
And they got 67 votes in the Senate. And then, of course, the House, it was blocked. Again, don't think, and I know I'll be accused by some people anyhow, because you have to say 100% bad shit. You're not allowed to have any nuance. I think 98%, probably more of what George W. Bush did was freaking horrible. But there were a few things he did that were positive. Find me anything Trump's ever done that was positive.
Right.
Thank you.
For George W. Bush, even though, I agree, 98% of what he did was horrible, but I think George W. Bush was motivated by his belief that he was doing something for the good of the country. And that even though as despicable as it was for his vice president to lie us into war and for them to, fabricate intelligence, they both thought it was for the good of the United States that this country go to war. So great, I disagree with the policy. I thought what they did was despicable and how they lied us into war, but they were motivated by, again, the country. Donald Trump is only motivated by himself. He doesn't care what's good for the country.
Yep.
No, the country is a vehicle for enriching and himself, for staying out of jail, for getting the adulation he craves every day. Like that's what America is. America is like a sideshow to Donald Trump. And then there's just no doubt that it's that you're exactly right, David. And we've again, I can't say we've never had this before. I wasn't alive in the 19th century. I know I'm getting old, but not quite that old. Andrew Johnson certainly seemed to be along those lines. Buchanan, Andrew Jackson, who the way, in a positive way, I think Grant has been, people have looked at and sort of his reputation has improved. Jackson is headed in the other direction. He may have done some great things economically for white people, but when it came to Native Americans and when it came to his views on, he wanted to keep the Union together, yes, but when it came to his views on Black people, they were horrific. So, he and again, and you can't just be like, he committed a genocide, but there's a trail of tears and it ends there. Like the fact that this man was ever, afterwards given sort of this high status, valorated and valorized. I'm getting the word wrong, and just considered to be, one of the great presidents when he literally committed a genocide against Native Americans. I don't. That just tells us our history is what it tells us. But even with all of that, like. Even all of them, like again, I don't know. You can say they measure up to the damage Trump has done, right? Again, they're just starting with COVID. There would have been 400,000 more Americans alive. That's before you get to everything else.
I'm sorry, cut you off. Go.
No, I'm done.
No, like to your point, like and again, this is where historical context matters, right? Because this is what Trump's doing, and to your point, it's never been this horrible. And I'll tell you why. Because back during the Gilded Age, what people viewed the federal government was just as to protect property. That was it, which usually meant business and the elites. The way we think about government, as in being more towards community and more for the citizenry, is what's called it. Before it was progressivism, it was called the Wisconsin idea, and it came out of Wisconsin. So that's why Wisconsin, before Scott Walker, used to have all these premier public institutions, all these things that were community oriented.
And the irony is the Republican Party came out of Ripon, Wisconsin, too, which because when it was originally founded, it had that same sort of belief system. Oh, they've strayed a bit. Yeah.
A little bit. And the thing is, why Trump is worse by degrees is because when you went from the Gilded Age to the Wisconsin idea, and you had, I believe her name was Frances Perkins, who was the labor secretary under FDR. Yeah. And so you're seeing a progress. You're seeing legislation like Social Security, which was for widows and orphans. You're seeing the New Deal and parts of the New Deal that went to help people and get us out of the Great Depression. We've done this already, and we know what it is like for the government to work for the people and how much better life is, and they're trying to roll it back. Because before then, they didn't know, like they said, well, no, it needs to trickle down. There was the mudsill theory where it's like some people just aren't going to rise. And
if it's trickling down, it's because you're in a hotel with Donald Trump and someone's peeing on your head. Okay. It's not the economy.
They're taking things away from us. It's not that we've never had this stuff like in the Gilded Age. We've had this stuff. It has worked. And maybe not always to the degree that we needed or wanted, but it has worked. And now they're taking it away from us, and they're making things absolutely worse. And so, he's by far the worst.
And we need to learn. That's what you're saying. And I've written a few pieces, and I'm going to write after this, my Substack piece that I'm going to write is going to be on how, I'm very happy that Sherrod Brown has jumped in the race. And this is not just because he's from Ohio, that he is, if we want the broadest possible coalition that goes over from social Democrats on the left to never Trumpers on the right, and even some conservatives. And it's so somebody that puts, the issues that unite the most of us, not the divisive ones, but the ones that bring the most of us. And I'm not saying divisive, I'm just saying so we can build the biggest coalition. Sherrod Brown, why he, even when this was a swing state, before it was even a red state, won here again and again, and why he outperformed Kamala Harris here by 8 points is, he wore the little canary pin that a miner gave him. He always spoke out about the dignity of work and workers first. And if we can become that party again, even though we've added a lot of upper middle class suburbanites and middle class suburbanites, I got to tell you, they're being squeezed at this point too. And don't think I have more sympathy for them than I do for people that can't pay the bills. But people that used to think they were making, hey, I'm making a 6-figure income, and now they realize they can't afford to retire. They can't afford a private, they can't afford college often for their kids. They don't have family leave if something happens. They're and they're like, I'm making $200,000 or $300,000 a year, and now we need this operation, and insurance won't cover it. And you can build if you start at that basis from working hard and everyone having, and I think Kamala started to do this, but grabbing back the mantle of freedom, which again was an FDR mantle, freedom from want, freedom from need, right? And those things. I think that is how we can, because remember, when Democrats sit there and this is the mistake we have made, which is when we're the status quo, when people are just craving change, because even before Trump, this system has not been working since Reagan. We had a system that believed in all of us, believed in the public good and all of that. And then Reagan came in with his mottos about selfishness and the government being evil. And it's been gradually going in that direction with a couple small U-turns under Obama and whatever, since, in that time, but mostly in that direction. So you can't, whoever it is, and this is what needs to happen, there cannot be we're going to come in and we're going to roll back a few Trump things and make things marginally better. This is an FDR moment. This is a moment to come in and say, the institutions have failed you. We are going to massively reform many of them. And guess what? we're adding all sorts of new institutions and all sorts of new programs and also new things to take care of you, because clearly the ones we had in place did not protect democracy. Why have the courts not had the kinds of enforcement mechanisms they needed? Why have, can these guys even shut down social security offices? Why can they do some of the things they've done? It's quite clear. I mean, we had a period of semi-reform after Nixon too, after some of his abuses, but we need a wholesale re-envisioning of what an inclusive, forward-thinking America is. And if the Democrats don't deliver that, we may still win because the Republicans will be so terrible, but we will not win in any convincing way. And we will not get people behind us with the kind of change this country needs, because even getting rid of Trump, he's so severely damaged so much of what we took for granted. I mean, what happens when the next president accepts an emolument? Gets their Qatari jet. What happens when the next one is like, oh, let's have the military stop off at my Scottish golf club, or on the way back home? What happens when the next one won't divest and knows what their stock portfolio? I mean, he has destroyed all of these other things that were just considered what you did before. And if every president had been releasing their tax returns, so it wasn't a requirement. It was just something you just assumed they did. We need something to require. We need a new institution that has to dealing with presidential integrity and the markets and whatever to enforce all of this.
Well, it gets into an interesting question also about priorities then, because there's been a lot of talk about, there should be some Truth and Reconciliation Commission if a Democrat wins the presidency 3 years from now. But even sooner, a lot of discussion about, well, let's suppose Democrats take back the House. Is it worth the Democrats' while? Do we need to sort of cleanse society through another impeachment? Or is that a waste of time, because we've seen how Donald Trump is able to take the slings and arrows against him and get his base riled up?
I think what Democrats need to do is we need to stop being the party that's just, well, you're sick of Republicans for the time being. We're the other guy, just vote for us. I think we need to give the American people something to actually believe in. That's one of the things.
But that to me is that whole kind of FDR part 2 or 0.20 kind of plan is give them what we're going to do.
And you run on anti-corruption. And so to David's point, you say if it's Truth and Reconciliation, okay, yeah. If it's another impeachment, sure. If it's expanding the Supreme Court or putting term limits, maybe 10 years on Supreme Court justices,
it's both, hopefully.
Yeah, it's
that's another institution that's failed. I don't mean to keep interrupting. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. It reminds me, and I'm really going to show my age on this one. It reminds me of The Wire when Avon's talking to Cuddy, and he says, but you ain't done shit else. What are you going to do? He says, I don't know, but it can't be this. And that's where I'm at with the Democratic Party in America. It's like, we can't keep doing this. I don't know what it is moving forward. Maybe it's a combination of all of it, but we have to hold people accountable. We can't do another like with George W. Bush and say we got to move forward for the good.
Don't look back. Obama's. I understand Obama wanted to start with, but that was such a huge mistake, especially when we had been voted in with such majorities. And again, because the minute you start ignoring torture and you start ignoring manipulating intelligence to lie our way into a war and some of those other things, is when those guys get away with it. And here's the thing about those guys in history, they're like Forrest Gump. They always come back. Right? Like, we're dealing with some of these same assholes who were the worst voices under George W. Bush. A few of them that have been around since Reagan, and they won't go away, and they would have gone away if they'd spent time in prison, or at least, I think there's got to be triage with a Truth and Reconciliation Committee. I honestly do. I think there is a good number of people that need to out and out go to prison. There's a number of people for conspiring against the United States that need to be banned from serving in public office in any capacity, even if they don't serve a day in prison, and must be removed. And then there will be some people who will be and this is just the way it always works, right? Like Sammy the Bull Gravano or whatever killed 21 people, but he turned on Gotti and he got a better sense. There will be a certain number that are smart enough to turn early. And as terrible as they are, we have to be willing to work with them if they will give us the inner workings of how it goes. But that's the way I see it.
It's like, it's things you don't hear about, that don't get much play. Like Pete Hoekstra, who's the ambassador to Canada, who got kicked out, I think it was the Netherlands, for meeting with far right agitators in that country, and they booted him, is now up in Canada meeting with far right agitators and separatists in Alberta. So we're literally like stoking secession
in
and
other countries. I mean, that's an act of
Canada.
war. Actually,
Yeah,
is what it is. I mean, if we're being honest.
yeah.
No, you're right.
And Stephen Miller needs to be held accountable. Like Christine Ohm needs to be held accountable. Like there are people dying in there are people in Mississippi, and I know they voted for this guy. And it's very much a FAFO kind of thing. It's like tornadoes wiped out their homes. And Trump, I guess because he considers the Treasury his own personal company, he's like, oh, we're not paying for that. They're living in tents. And they're his supporters. It's their house. And so it's our
That's why
tax
he's going to
money.
get crushed in the midterms, though, is because he's so greedy that he will not even take care of his own people. Forget the people that didn't vote for him. He won't even take care of. I mean, I've got and we can come up with different sentences for all of them for fun, but my sentence for Stephen Miller is to send him without guards back to his old neighborhood in Santa Monica where he grew up. That's what I would do with Stephen Miller. Just let him walk down the street, in that neighborhood. I think that takes care of itself. I think in the case of Christy Nome, next time we give the dog the shotgun, I think we can figure out some ways to handle something. But if I'm being serious, those two need to go to prison.
I agree.
Pete Hegseth needs to go to prison. Donald Trump obviously goes without saying, though he'll probably no longer be with us by that point. JD Vance needs to go to prison, and a whole bunch of these other folks. And again, what we never followed up on, even because it can't be forgotten, January 6th, we need to get to the bottom of who the co-conspirators were. We know some stuff from the report, but who the people were. I mean, again, I'm sorry, Lauren Boebert tweeting out when nobody else seemed to know where Nancy Pelosi was, which was a bat signal for certain people. These are things that need to be investigated, and these are people that need to go to prison. And yes, there will be a lesser group who were just horrible and just enabled it, who I think, enabled it in that they backed everything they did, not they looked the other way. That the kinds of people like Ted Cruz or whatever, who maybe was involved, I don't know, but if he wasn't, certainly enabled in every way, that I think if you can't send them to prison, absolutely need to be banned from ever serving in office again. And then again, there will be another group, and hopefully you get people to come forward, and there will be people that we have to just accept that won't get punished in the way they should. But if they deliver everybody else and they deliver us our democracy back, then we need to accept that.
I need to. I mean, for me, I'm a dreamer, and I know it won't happen. But I think it should be something akin to denazification, demagification, or whatever. Is we need to denazify, demagify our country. And I don't think we'll go that far. We should.
We have to, though, to a certain degree, because I would say that is why that's what failed with Reconstruction. Right?
Yes, 100%.
And then Rutherford B. Hayes, I know this will shock everybody, with that corrupt bargain, was able to win a very close presidency over Tilden. And how did he win it? Because Florida delivered its electoral votes. Good old Florida, because they got him to agree that he would end Reconstruction.
Yep.
In 100 years of suffering and inequality that we still haven't recovered from in any way. So, yeah, we need to demagify everything. If the Truth and Reconciliation Committee, I don't care. There's moles, plants, people in various departments. They need to be ousted. Yep. We need to clean these fuckers out. They're vermin. Ooh, I'm not supposed to say that. Only Trump can say that. Sorry.
I mean, I think, look, a hard look at everything, a hard look at some of the ugliness, as difficult as that may be. I feel like it's a necessary process that we all have to go through. I got to leave just a little bit early because I got an early kid pickup. But before I go, Fred, you talked about you're a sports guy. Cliff is a Yankees fan. I've got college football covered. What are you interested in and why?
I like, just be quickly, I like other teams too, David. You just want to say the one that people are going to get the most pissed off at me for.
Well, yeah, it's true, but it was funny. So football, basketball, I'm very much Broncos fan. Living in Colorado. And
did you grow up in Colorado?
No. I kind of grew up everywhere. I'm a native born Texan, and I was raised in Kailua, Hawaii, actually, from 6 to 12 years old. I know. We moved back to Texas, and then I got stuck in East Tennessee for like 20 years, and then I went on a career where I was in aviation. I worked at DCA, and I worked at Philly. I worked at Detroit, and worked at LAX, and then COVID
Look, we
brought me
got
back.
Stacy D'Alessandro here. Good Italian name. Maybe South Philly. I don't know.
But, hey, I like. So
Oh, you know
here's the thing, D'Alessandro. The Eagles are my NFC team, but because I lived in DCA, I'm a Nationals guy when it comes to baseball. I do not root for the Rockies. I refuse. Will not
So
do it.
it's funny. I'm supposed to by nature hate most of the Philly teams, but because I went to college there.
Right.
And I'm sorry, I don't know how old you are.
48.
No, I wasn't even asking you. I somehow forgot. I remember D'Alessandro because such a great name, but I forgot it was Stacy. When I was there, was the most awesome Phillies team of all time. The one with Dutch Dalton and Dykstra and like Wild Thing and like a bunch of Dykstra is a Trumper now, so fuck him.
Yeah,
but back then, and that was such a fun team. They showed up a few times. Like one time, they crashed into a tree on the way to one of our parties, which really isn't funny because they were probably drunk. But point being, I was at Penn and they would come by places that even though I'm not supposed to like Philly teams, I had to start like, and at least I'm a Yankees fan. They're not rivals with the Phillies, but I really should hate the Eagles. But I can't bring myself to. I was so excited when the Eagles beat Kansas City, and I was so excited when
I was too.
Beat Tom Brady, which my Giants also did. We will always have that. We ruined that fucker's perfect season.
Here's what I need. Here's what
I got to drop real fast before I go. I just want to say,
go for it, Dave.
I'm not opposed to the Broncos. I'm okay with all things Colorado. So no, we don't have any sports issues here, Fred. Thanks so much for being on.
The University of Michigan.
Cliff are going to keep going. Cliff, are you going to be okay the next few days?
Tomorrow's the big day. So, and
that's right.
For a programming note, there will be no, only the second time we've done this, no Substack show tomorrow because I will be moving my son into college and weeping.
I don't want to open up a can of emotional worms, but I just want to say, hang in there, my friend. It's going to be all the best to you. Fred, great to be on with you. We look forward to doing it again. I'll let you guys keep chatting and we'll circle back another point. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, David. Great meeting you, brother.
Thanks a lot, David.
Yes.
Here's if I might suggest.
You can suggest. I think I've probably got about another. We got another 10 minutes. So
let's do it. So here's what I would suggest to help you with this very emotional thing. Which I loved your piece. If for folks who have not read it on Substack, seriously go give it a read. It's such a great heartwarming piece. I loved it, man. I was really touched. I shared it on.
It was one of the most heartfelt things. And I had to add, like, why did you bring Trump into it? And I was just like, well, I talked about fathers and sons and relationships, but I had to, it wasn't about like, I also need to insult Trump in everything I do. I felt the need to bring that in because some of the stuff that you worry about normally is even that much more, worrisome when you've got masked ICE terrorists grabbing people on streets. You've still got lone shooters and this and that, and you're taking a kid away to college and in an atmosphere that of fear and of a climate of fear. And so I worked that in there too. But here, I'll give you all the link here. I would ask if you're willing to read it because it is honestly, it's probably the most important thing to me that I've ever written. So exaggerating.
I would say that the Trump thing, it was fair because unfortunately on the MAGA side, they put him up as some like alpha guy. He's the embodiment of manhood we should aspire to be. He's horrible. He's a weak man. He's a horrible father.
I talked about that in there. Like he just can't even understand because the selfless nature of being a dad where you would do anything. I remember once hearing Jon Stewart when he was on his old show. He's back on that same show, but the first run on the Daily Show saying when he first had his first kid, I think that you look at this little sort of child, this little infant, and you realize that moment, you're like, I would do anything. I would kill or die for them. And that always got me because that was my exact reaction, which is there's nothing, and this doesn't make me a great dad. This doesn't make me a hero. It makes me human. It makes me, this is what we are as human beings. It's what I think it's how you should feel about your children, and so I've never had anything just as straightforward as that.
No, dude, I mean, and we need more the reason I shared is, man, I'm not a father myself, but we need more examples of that kind of, masculinity on display where it's you can be vulnerable and be a dad. You can be like emotional and you can feel things as a man, especially in our age
it makes
group,
you
man.
more of a man. I think,
Yeah, I do too.
Like, I don't need to pretend and hide. Like, I love my kids and I'd do anything for them,
Right.
and like, again, I think we sort of amplified a really stupid kind of toxic masculinity where you're supposed to be, yeah, man, my kid, get out there and play sports or whatever. No, man. I mean, yeah, one of my kids really is into sports. That's great. The other one really is a music guy. I love doing every step of all of it with them. And like this hiding your emotion, I couldn't hide my emotions if I wanted to, but I also am just like, okay, if you guys out there who are so stunted emotionally, you can't express yourselves. If you think that makes me more feminine, you go ahead and think that, if that's what you want to think.
And all I would say is
there's anything wrong with being feminine, to be clear.
No. And what I was going to say is if you go tomorrow and you're feeling this swell of emotions, and since you're an Ohio guy, us who support Prime and Coach Sanders in Colorado, go to the Browns and tell them it is unacceptable for Shedeur Sanders to be the fourth QB in the rotation. And if they're not going to put him up there, then go ahead and trade him. The Saints.
I got to tell you, I'm in the Cincy area. We're Bengals people. We're Joe Burrow, and hoping that maybe one of these years the refs won't rip away what we think should have been ours. But I'm not going to talk about that anymore. Sorry. Phantom call against both Kansas City and the Rams. Okay, I'll move on.
Oh no, I as a Broncos fan, I loathe Kansas City. It's
okay. There you go. I grew up a Yankees and a Giants fan just because I grew up in New York City. My dad went to the Polo Grounds,
right.
Cool shit. Saw Luke Gehrig when he was a little kid, play and all that. And my dad passed away a little over a decade ago. So not that it only happened after that, but whenever people are like, oh, how can you live in Ohio and be a Yankees? And I'm like, well, I grew up in New York City, and some of my most amazing memories are of my dad taking me to Yankee Stadium, taking me to see the Giants, and that will always be with me. But I've also, since I've lived, here now for a while, embraced the Reds and the Bengals and root for them too. So,
Sure.
You can do both.
Oh yeah, no, I'm
but you can't root for the Mets.
Yeah, I'm a Nationals fan because, except for the Mets, nice. I'm a Nationals fan because before I got into all this other stuff that I did, I was supposed to be a security analyst for the Department of the Navy. But thanks to Boehner and sequestration they heaped on Obama, my job got cut. And so I ended up going into aviation. But I had a group of friends. I was going to be a DC guy, and I had a DC circle of friends, and that's where I wanted to live. And anytime I would go and visit, we would go to Nationals games. And so similar to what you and your dad is like, I had a lot of memories with friends that I would go to Nationals games. So I'm a Nats fan.
When were you there in DC?
I was there 2013 to about 2015.
Okay, yeah. So we missed each other. I there. I think I'm older than you. I'm pretty sure of it.
Yeah, like I was there 2013 to 2015. I went to Philly after that.
I was there from 99 to 08.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, I left here and there in between. Like I'd leave for 3 months to go to Maine or Kentucky or somewhere to work on a political campaign. You know what I mean? But then I'd come back to DC. That was my residence where I spent most of that period of time until kids started coming along. And we're like, hey, we'd like to raise them in a place where they can't just crawl across the room in like 5 seconds that we can afford. And but I mean, I got what you're saying.
So it's people act like because people don't move. It's like well, why would you're here? Why would you root for that team? It's like, dude, there's whole bars from transplants.
People never understand that stuff, right? They're like, well, how can you? I'm like, so much of it, frankly, it's a lot like in this one way, like politics. It's emotional. It's not
Yeah.
rational. Like again, my stuff isn't based on. I haven't lived in New York City since I moved to DC. I've been back to New York a ton because my mom still lives there, other family, but I haven't lived in New York City except for during a campaign for 6 months or so. No, less than that, 3 months in 2001 or something. But I haven't lived there since '99. I haven't lived there for a quarter century. But yeah, that's about half my life. For about half my life, I did live in New York, and again, like no one can replace, especially once you've lost your father, and no one can replace me remembering watching. I mean, one of my earliest memories was like 4 or something, watching Reggie Jackson hit 3 home runs in a World Series game. Like I remember that because the emotion, emotional things, what you tend to remember. My dad, everybody with us screaming, yelling, all that stuff. Like, so, I'm not going to apologize for that to anybody, but I think I also think that people are like, you're going to root for one team. No, you can't. You can root for as many fucking teams as you want. You go to move to a new place and you like I'd never move and spend this much time the way I moved in Philly just for college and rooted for some of those teams. Like I'd never move here and raise my kids here and live here as long as I have and not root for the Bengals and for the Reds. Of course I do. I mean, no, not the Browns. The Browns fucking suck. And they're up in Cleveland 3.5 hours away. I'm not rooting for those bastards, but so I'm not delivering any messages to them. I'm sorry, but
just the Colorado fans, the Buffalo fans would appreciate it because they're not using Shedeur Sanders the way they need to use the guy. Like they got to cut him, like not cut him, but they need to trade him. Get
him somewhere where he will be used in that fashion.
Right. The
Giants could use him. Get him over there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that. He could handle the New York spotlight. I think.
James Sanders, you've got a great shot at handling the New York spotlight.
Oh yeah,
any spotlight for that matter.
100%, man. And I just want to say before we jump off, dude, thank you so much for inviting me on.
Dude,
I love it. I've had a great time with you and David. I appreciate you sharing this with you, man. Thank you.
Me too. I mean, my God, like the fantastically interesting background you have. Like you've done so. I mean, I always am like, I look back and I'm like, God, did I do some weird shit during my life? Right? Like first 2 years out of college, I worked on Wall Street because I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do in my life, and I thought I wanted to go to law school. I chose not to. I'm like, what do I do? Everybody knows working on Wall Street. I'll go work there. Fucking hated it, but I've seen things. I could write a book, and I learned a ton. I learned everything about markets, how to manage my own money and all that. So I'll take that as a win. I worked in management consulting. Obviously in political campaigns, a writer. I mean, I think there's variety being the spice of life. I've lived in I've counted them at some point 7 or 8 different places, including 3 outside of the continental United States. Although it depends if you want to count it or not. When I got into grad school, I spent a summer living in St. Thomas. Just making money and boating to St. John and Joost van Dyke and Tortola and all these islands, which I'll never forget. And then I lived in both France and England and loved it, And so like I've always tried to, I don't know, life's more interesting that way.
Heck yeah. Totally agree, bro.
I guess I'm just saying I love that you were going into like into security, right? And the sequestration.
Yeah, I was going to be the guy that analyzed intelligence and security data for the Department of the Navy. They recruited us from East Tennessee in our master's program, and I was all set to go. And I was like, I'm going to move to DC, had that ready to go. And they're like, oh, sorry, your job is frozen. We're not hiring. And then it got cut. And that was when John Boehner, they did the sequestration under Obama, and they weren't giving him anything. And so I was throwing bags at U.S. Airways at Tri-Cities, Aviation, wondering how the hell am I going to get out of East Tennessee? And a buddy said, hey, they're hiring up at DCA Airport. Why don't you go transfer, get a job there, and then try to get in the government that way?
By the way, and let me say how much I appreciate you're calling it DCA, as I refer to it as national. And neither of us adorn it with the other ugly name they gave it. I will never call it that.
It's either Washington National or DCA. You don't, and I'm not Mm-mm.
The only place that I think it belonged was like in the movie Airplane, the Ronald Reagan Home for the Mentally Ill. I don't know if that's PC anymore, so maybe I shouldn't say that, but that was a great, funny joke in the movie Airplane.
It is. I love Airplane, and it's such an insult that they would they put his name
Well,
on
they did
an
it on purpose
airport.
because he cut so much funding for mental health facilities but
No, I meant like a DCA because of what he did to the air traffic controllers.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. I'm tracking.
Naming an airport after him, right? I mean,
Yep.
it'd be like naming a bank after Donald Trump, a place that makes money.
It's like that's that. Yeah. Well, it's like Sean Duffy recently going like, it's like, well, it's all Pete Hegseth's fault that we don't have any air traffic controllers. Didn't you guys fire him with Doge? Isn't that what happened?
So, okay, I've got you here. We're having a little bit of fun, unless you need to go this second.
No, I'm good.
You want my Sean Duffy story?
I do want your Sean Duffy story.
You know how he ended up becoming such an asshole, or probably always was one and just hit it well. But so you'll figure this out really quickly because you're a smart guy. I had good friends out of college. I was living back in New York for a bit. I had a couple friends. One of my best friend and a few others were up in Boston. We're up to visit them. Beacon Hill. We go out to this bar, club, whatever place, or somewhere near Beacon Hill, and like we suddenly see all these cameras. We're like, "What the hell's going on here?" Like, it's real world Boston, and I swear to you, I don't remember how we were in the men's lavatory at the same time, not doing any business, just so people know. Well, this wasn't like a Larry Craig thing, just to be clear. But I think sink, washed our hands. I don't know how we even started talking to each other, but we did. And he invited me and my friend, there were a big group of them, the men and the women, to come sit at their table. And I was just like, all right, cool. Cameras on. Who knows? Like back then, I was like, maybe I'll get on the real world. And I went and I sat down, and I couldn't tell you to this day what the hell we talked about. But he seemed like a nice guy then, which means, I don't know what evil befell him, or if he just was a good faker, as I said. And again, this is a 20-something him and a 20-something me. And then I at some point got up, said goodbye, moved on. We're heading home. Take it easy. And when they showed a quick clip for that episode, like of what went on and like in their promo, and then they showed that scene in there, they cut out, I think, the part where we were talking, but our faces, we were in it, that episode.
Wow.
And then, I forgot he existed for 20 years. And then he came back out, ran for Congress as a right-wing dumb fuck. And I was like, I can't believe I ever sat down for a drink with that guy. Please. I almost felt like I would be like, if anybody actually watched this, that show anymore, or, watched reruns, I'd like call them and be like, take me out. I don't want my face appearing in an episode that Putz is in, but I assume that no one ever sees it, so it doesn't matter. So there's my Sean Duffy story.
The only odd story I've got with that is one involving Quentin Tarantino, where I met him twice. I met him in East Tennessee because he's from Knoxville. So he's flying.
You understand that's not a valid comparison.
No, it's not at all. But that's all I got. Well, no, actually,
I met Mark Hamill, and I can talk about that.
But there you go. No, I guess
I just don't want anybody thinking we're like Sean Duffy is in the same breath as Quentin Tarantino.
And the only reason I'm saying,
I met Sean Duffy, you should have been like, I tripped over a pile of vomit and fell down, and I looked up, and there was Josh Hawley. Like that would have been more of like an equivalent.
I slipped on a pile of vomit and fell backwards into some dog crap.
Then I saw Josh Hawley, and he was running away from an insurrection, and he started. Fucking dick. All right, go ahead.
No, but it just reminds me of how it was the oddity.
Mr. Android, we are not name dropping. We're mostly laughing about it. Okay.
Yeah, no, it was
the Tarantino thing is funny, and I brought up Hamill just because that's something. And I think people who paid attention to me have heard this story 1,000 times, so I'm not going to tell it anymore. But it was all through political work. It's not like, oh, I'm cool, so I got to be friends with these people. I got to know them because they were passionate about certain issues, about things that I worked on. So that's
sure. Yeah, I mean, like I've had at DCA, I've had conversation with I actually had a quick conversation with John McCain as he was boarding a flight because he actually flew commercial.
Nice.
I helped Newt Gingrich navigate a kiosk on
Yep.
an American Airlines terminal.
Could he
right?
fit in it?
No, no, he is really damn short though.
Well,
Like
I mean, he had to
I'm
fit in it
6'5",
because he's
I'm
a
six
large
five in
human
real
being.
life.
But
Right,
then you probably had to fit a wife and a mistress in there at the same time too. So that's that takes a lot of space.
Of course, So I saw like we had Hillary Clinton go through the terminal once. That was the only time we really got an alert. She was Secretary of State at that time.
I bet. I mean, I would think that'd be a pretty serious alert. Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah. Like that was the one when they like so Kamala was the same thing in LAX where they brought the expedition, the black expedition, up to the aircraft, loaded her with her security, and got off. Right. So we did that too. Like when we would have high profile people on the ramp like that, you'd have to meet the plane. And so you always had to make sure everything was. You were like that added layer of security. And so.
Well, political
I
stuff.
I saw and kind of had conversations with a ton of politicians at DCA when I was there. Like,
I mean, I would see political folks. Yeah, I mean that's different because especially being there and working in it. There's about either 1,000 political folks that most of them I didn't meet. Either because in some situations it didn't present itself. Others I actively avoided trying to meet them because there's some horrific people that I didn't want to meet. I laugh about the one right now because there's a flight back from DC to Cincinnati, and you have to fly into the Cincinnati airport, kind of like Newark is in New Jersey. And I have to explain this to my friends in New York because they don't get it. Love you guys in New York, but members of my family like, I don't understand. The airport's in Kentucky. And I'm like, do you know how you have an airport in Newark and it's right over there's a tunnel you go through and you get right there? We just have a bridge you go over. It's not that far away. It's not like it's in Kentucky 3 hours away. It's like 20 minutes away, less. But in any case, I flew into the airport there and Thomas Massey was standing there. At that time, after he did the Manson family Christmas card with all he and his family.
Oh yeah.
I was tempted to want to deck him, but now I love him. Now he's the biggest thorn in Trump's side, even though I think he's probably wrong about most everything. He's right about Trump, so I'm all go Tom Massey.
It's like, let's go for it, bro. And no, but like the Tarantino one was that kind of odd sort of meeting, is because I met him in East Tennessee. He was going to the Bristol race. We just said, hey, what's up? I told him I was a fan of his work. So this was like in 2004. Yeah. So years later, I'm in. This was probably 2017. I'm in Hawthorne, California at this time. I'm working at LAX. I was on a day off, walking around the neighborhood, and I see a guy wearing this like scarlet red romper, right? And he's got like the white belt around it with a fanny pack, and he's got a neon sort of green hat on. And he's got two bodyguards with him, and I'm, that are clear because they're looking around. I've been around enough security. I know. And I'm like, boy, this guy's trying really, he's messing up being inconspicuous really badly. Right. And he's got a disposable camera and he's taking pictures. And for those of you like where I lived in Hawthorne, you've got those old houses that look like they were there. I mean, they were built like in the 60s. They're still there, right? A lot of those houses. And so I as he turns around, I'm like, it's Quentin Tarantino. And I was like, and so he was doing location scouting for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Right. And so I was like, yo, Quentin. And I start making my way towards him, and he's like, hey, like he doesn't recognize me. And we had a little chat, and I mentioned when I met him. But it was just one of those odd, surreal moments. I was like, why is there a guy in a scarlet red romper? For those of you who don't know, it was the short sleeve onesie with shorts, and had a white belt or cinched around his waist.
It's what I wear when I'm not on air here all the time.
Right. And I'm walking around, this, like, I was one of the few white folks in the neighborhood, a very Hispanic working class neighborhood, in Hawthorne, California. And so I'm just like, this is odd. like
so funny. I mean, well, you lived in LA for a while.
I did. I lived there for about 3 years.
I almost moved out there. I like it out there. I want to quickly answer Cynthia here, just to be clear. That my feelings have not improved. It's sort of like the old saying, right? The ass clown of an ass clown is my friend or something, right? Enemy of my enemy kind of thing. I just love what he's doing to Trump right now. And actually, I really do think he plays an incredibly important voice or important role with his voice in Congress, because if there is to be a discharge petition where we can get the Epstein files released, he has already called for it. So we know we've got at least one Republican on our side, which is pretty important. And he may have sway over a few others on other things too. He's opposed Trump and often from the wrong side, right? I think he probably wanted stuff to be more cut from that big piece of shit bill in the end, so that more kids would starve and more, you know what I mean? So, but again, I encourage everybody, and I think you get this, Cynthia, which is nuance. Okay, these are strategic calculations, and this is it doesn't mean we're not going out for drinks anytime soon, holding our assault rifles with his family, me and Massey. I'm not going to say anytime soon I don't think he's an awful human being and a scumbag. But right now he's an awful human being and a scumbag who's helping us a lot with Trump because he's an elected congressional voice. And Trump last time opposed him, and he still overwhelmingly won in his district. So he's one of the few that actually has kept insulting Trump and wasn't punished politically for it. That is a huge asset to have on our side. So I'm going to take it. Okay. Again, I'm not throwing a birthday party anytime soon. We're not becoming buds. We're not going out and having some good Kentucky bourbon together. But as long as he keeps, as long as he, to go back to the earlier parts of the show, gets his RPG on his shoulder and keeps launching over at Trump, I'm all for it. The rhetorical attacks, we need it. So,
yeah, no, absolutely. And it's kind of like, when I worked in shockingly enough, I worked as a bouncer in a nightclub, and you throw a couple of assholes out and they start duking out in the parking lot. Hey, go for it, especially if I don't like one of them,
Oh yeah, right.
And it's like, it's like, hey, it's like, hey man, do you need a hammer or anything? Like, what can I get you?
This goes on, as we know, with MAGA all the time. Candace Owens is fighting with, Ben Shapiro, and Elon Musk is fighting with Stephen Miller. And I mean, you can go through this list, and all I hope for is it's kind of like, when Godzilla fights King Kong, they both destroy each other. That's the best outcome. If Massey could take down Trump, but also take down himself, I'm all for it. But
fantastic.
The truth is that Massey is one guy in a congressional district. So if he takes down Trump, but not himself, I can live with that.
Right.
That's all I'm looking for here is the ability to have an executive, in somebody in executive office that wakes up each day and actually knows how to put their pants on the right way. I don't ask for a lot.
Well, yeah, exactly. And the thing we got to remember too is what finally brought down Nixon wasn't Democrats, hammering at him. It was when finally Republicans turned on him.
Goldwater and those guys. The difference is, go ahead.
No, it's when they said, hey, this comes up to the Senate, we're going to vote to impeach.
Right.
And so then he finally resigned. And so it's the more people you get like that. I mean, that's right. Why the Jan 6 committee had such teeth, is because it had Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger on it.
That's right. So, I mean, the difference I'd say from back then is that was a period of time where there still was some decency in the Republican Party, and a few people that, there were some folks who believed in principle back then. Right. I'm at a point now where I don't care why they do it, though. And maybe Massey really believes in whatever he believes in, fine. So maybe you could say he's a man of principle, though his principles are fucked. But, but I would say this, what could lead those Republicans to go to him is, and this is where the right-wing entertainment complex comes in, and this is where the Epstein stuff comes in, is they lied to their own people for years saying leftist pedophile cabal, blah, blah, blah. And then it turned out that Trump was covering up, and Trump's the guy who's friends with Epstein. And all these guys who threw in with Trump did because he was great for their ratings, because they're grifters and that's all they care about. Suddenly, for Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones and all of them, when their crowds who've been sort of just socialized for years on the whole Epstein thing, and it's Democrats and we're defeating these evil Democrats who are taking advantage of kids, blah, blah, blah. And then they see Trump covering it up. If they start, which some of them have, because we've seen the numbers among white working class males and others falling for Trump. It's also job stuff, but this too. If this stuff happens, that's when you'll see the entertainment complex drop him. When he's hurting their ratings, they will pick their ratings over him. And when they do that, they provide cover for other Republicans to turn against him because they influence public opinion, let's be honest, more than anybody else. So if Alex Jones is saying something and Tucker Carlson is saying something on those, that's when you could see some folks in the Senate actually say, some Republican senators, not for the right reasons, but for political reasons, say, well, shit, he's more toxic now than he is a help in my district, and my only chance at hanging on is to vote to get rid of it. So,
yeah, you're right. No, and to your point, I mean, you politically organized, you understand this is like politics is emotional, right? And most people they're not going to come around to say, oh, I made a mistake in voting for Trump, and this and this. What they'll do is they'll rationalize it. Yes, they're hurt economically. Yes, they voted for these horrible policies. But the thing they'll hang their hat on is, well, he said he released the Epstein files and he didn't. What is he hiding?
Right.
Well, and that's again, their out. That is their
built it up so much.
That is their psychological out.
It was going to put all of the people they hate. It was going to Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton and Barack Obama. We're all going to go to prison for this. And I mean, it's like they built every conspiracy into the Epstein files. Everything from blood libel against Jews, drinking Christian blood, to black men preying on white women. It's like they played on every conspiracy from the last fucking 2,000 years, and then threw Democrats into that, and Democrats are the ones doing all this horrible stuff, and all of this, and look, the guy's name is even Epstein, wink wink, who's doing it, and they played into all of that, and now suddenly they're like, oops, nothing to see here, and they spent too much time telling too many people, and so too many people are too emotionally invested in this,
right,
to turn back around, and those are the people that make it so that Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones don't have to get real jobs. And so they're gonna go with their crowd first, and you've seen it because some of them have turned on Trump fully. Nick Fuentes is an example, and some of them have partially turned on him. And I think that's going to get worse as Congress comes back into session. We'll just do it again, and we'll remind people again on this show. Where are the Epstein files, Donnie? Release the Epstein files, Donnie. We know you're in them, Donnie, and we'll keep talking about it. You all keep talking about it. I think we're at about 3:30, so I've already gone 20 minutes beyond because Fred is such a fun guy. He's a fun guy. He's a mushroom. That was such a bad joke. I'm sorry, but he's such a good
I love
dude.
bad. I do. I love bad jokes. I personally love it. It made me think of Egon from Ghostbusters. Like, I collect spores, molds, and fungus. I went to Harold Ramis as soon as you said it. I'm sorry.
I mean, of course, I just think about it like, right? When somebody asks you if you're a god, you say yes.
Yes. If there's a steady paycheck in it, I'll believe anything you say.
That's right. That's right. Listen, I wanted to thank all you guys for being here. This has been great. Fred has been great. David Schuster is always great. Got lots going on. I'm going to, again, encourage you to subscribe. You can subscribe to Cliff's. Let's see if I can get it in here. Cliff's_Edge is the YouTube. Let's see if it works. Oh my God, I may have gotten it right. Go subscribe to the YouTube. We're trying to grow the YouTube, but the big kahuna, I couldn't come up with something better than that, if you will. Right now, we're doing a lot of stuff at blueamp.co, which is our Blue Amp Substack. We have one of the bigger ones with 500 something thousand subscribers, which gives us a lot of leverage to make messages, resonate and fly. We've had great guests on our Thursday weekly Amped Up show. And if for anybody here, and I've told you guys this before, if you go and you subscribe, we've turned our paid subscriptions into a funding method for the Sound Check Fund. And for any of you out there that are interested, go to blueamp.co and you will find, and you can fill out the Sound Check Fund form. We've got 4 people already. We're waiting to get selfies. I'm not kidding you, so that we can actually announce them and show you. We've given them, for each of them, a grant between $500 and $1,000. It's not going to change the world, but it gives them more money to buy equipment, that mic you might need, or that camera, or that this or that, to spend a little less time on that, a little more time on because if I were a billionaire, I would have given them each 50 or 100 or 200,000. But we're gonna, you guys, we put our own money into it, like a 5-figure sum to start. And now you guys, every time you get a paid subscription at Blue Amp, you're helping us fund it further.
Yep.
And so that is part of our goal. Or part of our goal is good messaging, and making sure it gets out there, pushing Democrats to be tougher, undermining and attacking Republicans, attacking and pointing out the hypocrisy and garbage that is our corporate media. And the other part of it is helping to promote independent media. Substack has become one of the best spots for that. And so the Sound Check Fund is part of it. So look, we're, as I say, we're the ones we've been waiting for. If you have the funds, it's, at this point, it's, what is it? $1 something, $2 a week. I mean, is what the price comes out to. If you want to help build an ecosystem of independent voices from the left, this is how you do it.
Yeah,
I'm doing it the only way I know how. I got tired of waiting, so I'm doing it.
Heck yeah.
Will I be successful? I have no idea, but I can promise you I'll be more successful if more folks get more paid subscriptions to the Substack. So, but if you can't afford that, even becoming an unpaid subscriber means you're there. You'll get all of our stuff, or most of our stuff. There's a few things for paid folks, and I encourage you to do that. And Frederick is a great Substack too, but he's going to tell you it because I don't have it in front of me because I'm not smart enough.
I'll make it real easy. All you got to do is just Fred Eric, POAG. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Blue Sky. You can find me on Substack. That's the best way to find me. And to jump off on Cliff's point, even if you don't have the money, which, hey, we understand it is a hard kind of economic times, but there's things that you can do. You can like our posts. You can share them with your friends.
That's a great point.
Yeah, you can get that exposure out there. If you're going to tune into one of Cliff's lives, say, hey man, I saw this, he's doing the next one here, is like all of that stuff helps. It helps grow this new media ecosystem that is dropping, that is not backed by corporate interests, that's going to try to be independent voices for what we need to move this country forward.
That is a great point. Liking something, restacking it, if it's on
100%.
Substack, retweeting it if you're still in that place, which I put up some posts and then run out of as quickly as possible, and will not offer any independent ideas there because I hate the guy. But if it promotes my stuff, I do it. Blue Sky, I would just say, and YouTube and Substack, the two big ones. If you share posts, if you like them, if you watch them and read them, what you're going to do is you're going to support us. Because again, the one thing I am always very sort of clear about, and this will be where I think we'll end this, is I only ask you for your money if you can afford it.
100%.
Okay? We are not them. We are not con men. I do not want your money. In fact, if you're going to be like, well, I gave to this for Cliff, but now I have to worry about how I'm going to afford this next month, don't give me your money. Seriously.
Yeah.
What I want is everybody who has the funds and claims they care about having real media out there, claims they care about democracy. Every one of you should be getting a paid subscription there, especially if you're wasting your money. No, not to insult you, but if you're spending it at places like the New York Times and the Washington Post that helped deliver Trump to us, then I feel pretty good in asking you to switch that over to us. So if you can afford it, it's whatever, it's $79 or something for a year at this point. I'll have to go look. I think we're going to do a sale soon too of 20% or something off. And with that money, if you can afford it, you're helping build an independent media ecosystem, which is what we all say we want. So,
yeah,
and again, like I always believe people have to have skin in the game. We put our 5-figure sum in there, and it wasn't easy. I don't just have large chunks of money lying around. As I said, I've got a kid going away to college. Those places are not cheap. But You know, if you care, you do what you can. So if you can afford it, do it. If you can't, like, share, subscribe, anything else you can think of that does not cost you any money. And Frederick, you're great. Thank you. Frederick the Great. Frederick, you're a good dude.
Thank you,
Thanks for
sir.
being here. Thank you to all of you guys for being here.
100%.
And I think we'll just end it here. I won't do one of my Jerry Maguire things where I hit you up and say, who's going with me, and try to get some super chats or whatever. If you want to give super chats, those will also go to support the cause and we'll appreciate it. But no pushing. I will just end it the way I always end it, from a great movie. We'll see. Fred can tell me later if he knows the movie. And, you know, because he did mention a certain person's name earlier who has a connection to this movie. So as we say here, as the sun sets slowly in the west, I bid you a fond farewell. Goodbye, my friends.
Have a good one. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, pal. And we out of here.